Fantasy football. He's our fantasy football cheat code.
It's time to set your lineups with CBS Sports' Dave Richard.
That's right. It's that time each and every Friday. We always look forward to checking in with Dave Richard, CBS Sports. You got questions, send us on our YouTube page, on our text line at 916-339-1140. Jason Ross, Jay Mars, no Carmichael Dave with us today. He'll be back next week. But we do have the one, the only Dave Richard. Dave, how are you?
Jason, Jay, good to talk with both of you. Hope you guys are crushing it in your leagues.
Well, this is something I wanted to ask you as an expert, and I know you told – how many leagues again are you in this year?
Only 17.
Only 17. So as an expert, I feel like you should challenge yourself. And with that said, I hope in one of your leagues you only played Bears and Commanders. No chance?
I'm trying to win my leagues, Jason. I'm trying
You didn't play anybody?
I started Brian Robinson in maybe one or two of my leagues. Started Montgomery in one or two of my leagues. McLaurin is on my dynasty team. That's about it. I'm really not. I really did not load up with Darnell Mooney and Equanimous St. Brown and De'Ami Brown for my fantasy squad.
You are trying to win. You're not trying to torture yourself. I get that.
I have to talk about these guys and rank them. That's enough torture for me.
Yeah. In your 17 leagues, I'd be curious. Probably a bunch of them are some traditionals. What's the, I don't know, for lack of a better term, the most creative or wildest? I mean, you said a dynasty, a different, I'm sure there's head-to-heads all over the place. What's the most bizarre of your 17 leagues? I
am in a pair of expert leagues that have the same people in each league. One league, we drafted everybody. One league, it was an auction to build your team. And it's one quarterback, two running backs, three wide receivers, one tight end, three flex. And it's 14 teams. So basically anybody with a pulse has fantasy value. I started Marquez Callaway last week in one of these leagues. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Dave Richard from CBS Sports joining us. Dave, let's get into it. Injuries obviously plaguing teams, but that gives people some options. Two running backs I want to get your thoughts on for this week. That one being Ramondre Stevenson and the other being Kenneth Walker.
Let's call both of them top 15 fantasy running backs, Jay. Stevenson's in the top 10. He should be the lead running back for New England. The Patriots will use somebody else as a passing downs back. I shouldn't even say that. I shouldn't even say somebody else as a passing downs back. Somebody to take some of the work off of Ramondre Stevenson. He's not going to get 100% of the snaps, but he's going to get a lot of them. And he crushed Cleveland when he happened to start against them last year. Huge game. I think he can come through again. 100 yards, touchdown, all the good stuff. Top 10 guy. Walker is going to be an awesome number 2 fantasy running back rest of the season. Great matchup against Arizona. Certainly saw some of his explosive ability last week against New Orleans. That was a tougher matchup for him. He'll be the running downs guy for Seattle. Should be able to score a touchdown and get you 70 yards at minimum.
Dave, we're week 6 coming up here. So fantasy wise, a long way to go. But who would you say at this point has been maybe your biggest surprise and conversely your biggest disappointment?
The biggest surprise has to be Geno Smith and what he's doing in Seattle. No one wanted to draft DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett because of Geno Smith. They thought that Smith would stink and drag their value down. Their passing offense would be bad. Smith's been awesome. I've been talking about him for the past couple of weeks and just how good of a thrower he's been. The offense has agreed with him, and he's been tracking the ball downfield. I think this week he's going to have to keep his passes shorter. And I think he'll get blitzed a lot this week, but it doesn't mean I'm going to say that he's a bad fantasy start. I like him as a top 7 quarterback this week. I would start him ahead of Aaron Rodgers, ahead of Matthew Stafford, ahead of Kirk Cousins, even ahead of Justin Herbert. He's been playing that well, and he deserves it. And I think the biggest fantasy disappointment is Najee Harris in Pittsburgh. He doesn't even have a game with 15 PPR points. If he doesn't score a touchdown, he doesn't even get you double-digit fantasy points. He doesn't even look like the best running back on his own team right now. Jalen Warren has been getting some run. He's looked better. He's faster, more efficient, and a good pass catcher out of the backfield, just like Najee Harris. It wouldn't surprise me, guys, if we saw a little bit more of Jalen Warren and a little bit less of Najee Harris moving forward. If you happen to have a roster spot open, Jalen Warren should be somebody you go look at off the waiver wire.
Dave, if you had to start a Cowboys running back this week, Ezekiel Elliott or Tony Pollard?
How many fantasy points am I looking for? Do I want to get 7 fantasy points and no more than that? I think Ezekiel Elliott's my guy. But if I want to have somebody that might get me fewer than 7 fantasy points, but he also might get me 20 fantasy points, it's got to be Tony Pollard. And it's a tough matchup. This Philadelphia defense has been great all the way around, but especially since week 2. They had some struggles week 1 against the Lions. They fixed them. Since week 2, they're not giving up 4 yards per carry. A lot of running backs have struggled to put up big numbers against them. I think Pollard's explosiveness is something the Cowboys need, but I've been saying that for years, and the Cowboys haven't put Pollard in a position to be their main running back unless Ezekiel Elliott has straight up missed games. That's not expected to happen this week. So unfortunately, Zeke will probably get around 15 touches. He'll get you 70 total yards. Tony Pollard hopefully comes through with a long run like he did last week.
Dave Richard joining us, CBS Sports. We'll get a couple of rapid fire here from our text line and our YouTube. First one, start one in a PPR league, Lazard, Olave, or Rondale Moore.
If Olave plays, he's your guy. If not, go with Alan Lazard.
Okay, you might have answered this one based on Najee Harris earlier, but Najee Harris, A.J. Dillon, or James Robinson?
I would if I've only got to start one, it's Dillon. And all 3 of these guys are touchdown needy running backs, but only one of them is playing against the Jets. Give me A.J. Dillon.
Okay, and the last one, at least from our YouTube here, Duvernay, Dobbs, or Gallup?
I would go with Duvernay. He's been playing really, really well for Baltimore. They're a little thin on wide receiver, and I think they're going to need to throw a little bit this week against the G-men.
Dave Richard, CBS Sports, joining us. Dave, Austin Eckler has been awesome the last 2 weeks, but was allergic to the end zone in the first 3 weeks. Is the Austin Eckler we've seen the last couple weeks the Austin Eckler we should be seeing for the rest of the season, you think?
I don't know if he's going to be over 30 PPR points per week good every week, Jay, but I think he's going to end up being in that 20 PPR point per game average. I bet that's where he ends up this year as long as he stays healthy. And I'll tell you what, I thought the Chargers offensive line was going to struggle after they lost Rashawn Slater. Look at how Eckler has done in the past 2 games. That's without Slater. They've started a different left tackle. I'm a Sailor, I believe his last name is. He looks like a man and a half. They've been running the ball exceptionally well. I think it's a tough matchup for him this week against Denver, but who's sitting him anyway? Eckler probably one of the top 3 or 4 best players overall in fantasy right now.
Dave, want to tie in the 49ers as well. They've won the last couple of weeks. They get the Falcons. I'm sure Debo's always a play. Jeff Wilson Jr. has been great the last couple of weeks. Coleman sneaks in and gets a couple of touchdowns. Who do you like if you have kind of any Niners on your roster?
Jason, I really like Jeff Wilson to keep it up. He's been so efficient running the past few weeks. I think he keeps it going. The Falcons' run defense isn't anything great, and they weren't using Deion Jones, but they traded him away. That means that run defense isn't going to get any better. I hesitate to use Ayuk, and I hesitate a little bit with George Kittle, but you just look at tight ends around fantasy football, and once you get past the first 5 or 6 guys, it's, all right, who can score a touchdown? And who's been good in the past that might be able to get me 40 yards and a touchdown? And I think Kittle qualifies as the latter. So I don't mind using him this week. And I think Garoppolo is a sleeper too because that Falcons defense has been so bad. And the Falcons tend to stay competitive in their games. They haven't been blown out yet this year. We know that the 49ers defense is all beat up, so that offense might be able to put some points up. It should force Garoppolo to throw a little bit more. I think Kittle's the one who benefits more so than Ayuk, and obviously Debo does too.
Well, and Dave, I feel like we should do the public service announcement, though. If you play fantasy football, don't get burned by this. It's finally our first bye week. Texans, Titans, Raiders, Lions. Don't be the guy that leaves one of those guys in.
No, and if you actually want to be one of the smarter fantasy managers out there, take a look and see who you have on your team who's on bye in week 7. And believe me, you probably have somebody who's going to be on bye in week 7 because the Eagles are on bye, the Rams are on bye, the Bills are on bye. You need to start preparing for those bye weeks now. If you don't do it, someone's going to beat you to it. There are some interesting quarterbacks on the waiver wire, DSTs too, that I think fantasy managers should be able to gravitate toward and pick up before Sunday morning's games kick off.
Yeah, be prepared. Be ready to go. Where can people get more information from you, Dave?
Oh, dude, we are previewing every game on the Week 6 slate starting at 9 a.m. your time on Fantasy Football Today. That's our live fantasy football show. It's on every day at 9 a.m. on CBS Sports HQ. Any device that gets Wi-Fi can watch it for free. Just go to cbssportshq.com or download the free CBS Sports app.
Awesome. Dave, great work as always. We appreciate it. We look forward to talking to you next Friday.